So the Jaguars, what did I just say before the break? It's like I expect them to sign him before the regular season. How about before the end of this show? How about while we're in commercial break? The Jaguars signing, according to the national guys now, it's a done deal for Tyson Campbell. 4 years, $76 million for Tyson Campbell, which, by the way, is right up there at like $19 million a year in my quick math. So $19-20 million a year for a guy coming off an injury-riddled season and going into year 4. Was this the right move by the Jaguars? And what does it say that they're willing to go here with Tyson Campbell coming off that kind of season?
Yeah, I'm trying to see where this is. So you say $19 million a year, Brent?
I think if my math's right, 4 years, 76. Yeah.
Okay, so $19 million a year.
That's going to get him in the top 8.
Top 8.
There's a huge discrepancy, right? There's a 19 to 21 million. That's going to get you in Jalen Ramsey's realm and everybody else. And then there's a cutoff between like 11 and 14 or 15 million. There's like nobody in the 16, 17, 18 million dollar range, I don't think, per year.
So on a per year basis, he's making more than Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey's making 18.3. Tyson Campbell's making 19. So that's going to put him up there around 7th, maybe a little before 6th, because L'Jarius Sneed is making $19.1 million a year, which is wild, where if L'Jarius Sneed's making $19 million a year and Tyson Campbell's making $19 million a year, like, I mean, I'm not saying Tyson Campbell's not that guy, but, you know, I think L'Jarius Sneed has a little more of a resume at this point in their career.
Well, again, you go... This is going to come into what we did with the Trevor stuff too, right? It's like percentage of the cap and what it was, and inflation and everything else.
Yeah, but Snead got paid this offseason as well.
Was it this offseason or 2?
He's with the Titans now. He played for the Chiefs last year.
Yeah, so
the Titans just signed him.
Yeah, did they trade him? That was a trade, or did he just let him go into free agency?
I'm not sure. I have to look that up.
But the bottom line is Snead did it for like a year.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so he was... Tyson's got a good resume, and corners are tough to find. If you go down the list, you'll see it. We did this a couple weeks ago, that there's a separation. There's like 8 of them, and then there's like this window, this gap. There's really just a gap. There's, I think, 15, 16, 17 million. Nobody's getting paid that a year. And then it's like 14, 13 million, 12 million. There's that next group. They obviously thought he was in this group. I had somebody tell me it's going to be more than you think it's going to be. That's why I had somebody tell me just last week, and they were right. This landed in the spot that they said, rather than maybe we thought they could get maybe Campbell for 15, 16 million coming off the year. Not the case. It's 19 million. Again, percentage of the cap, inflation, numbers are different now. That's why he's making more than Ramsey, I would say, Austin.
Sure.
Snead obviously getting done in the same time frame.
Was he slated to be a free agent then this year, right? Is that the... Oh, no, he had another year.
This would be his 4th year coming up, so after this year.
After this year, okay. Yeah. Man. I mean, I get making him... Essentially, he'd be a top 6 paid cornerback in the league right now. I still think, there's something to prove. Did you really have a risk, though, of waiting to see what he could do this year? Because here's what my philosophy is. Let's say that you wait like you did with Josh Allen, okay? And let's say that Tyson Campbell goes out there and is a Pro Bowler, he's a lockdown cornerback, and he's playing, like, I'm not ready to go above and beyond and say he's the best cornerback in the league, but let's say, he's up there. He's a top 5 cornerback in this league, unequivocally. If you were to, and once again, then you probably have to franchise tag him, right? And then you offer him a new contract. If you're going to offer him a new contract next year, would it be that different from what you would be paying him right now?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Because here's where I'm going.
I mean, by a couple million.
Jair Alexander's making $21 million. He's the highest paid cornerback right now from the Green Bay Packers. That started back in 2022, I think that was, when he got paid. Like, I don't see him ever making... Like, I don't see him making the most money, even if he has a great year this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think if he was going to have a balling year, he would still be in the $20 to $21 million range. So, like, did they take a little bit of a risk of paying him right now as opposed to, let's just wait and see what we got? All right, he's the real deal. Okay, cool. Let's franchise tag him, then pay him. Yeah,
this one is a little bit... I heard about a month ago that they were probably going to get this one done, and it was it's a little bit, it's not head scratching. Like, I get it, but it is a little, it's different. It's different because I think Tyson's a really good player.
He's shown it.
I don't know the resume has fully said, though. He's a $53 million guaranteed player, $19 million a year player. Like, and I get you could make the case with Trevor the same way, but that works a little bit different. Like, Trevor, if you take that 20-game stretch that like Driscoll was talking about yesterday, like he was one of the elite players in the game. Maybe there is a stretch of football like that for Tyson. I don't feel like it's been as lengthy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like the numbers have been absurd, like in terms of interceptions or anything else. Again, I'm a big fan of Tyson Campbell, so I'm not good for him. This is great. But this one does come with a little bit of what are they seeing? Why are they buying so much now? Like, I'm a guy that wanted Josh Allen paid before he got paid. They didn't sign Josh Allen. Like, you saw it coming. It was brewing. It was brewing, Josh Allen. Like, you could watch the games and you could see it. I don't necessarily say that with Tyson, but I do think it's a very dynamic and tough position to lock a guy in, like to get an elite player. And if you go down the list, go down the list. Are you even sold that Jair Alexander and Snead are like these unbelievable players? Like, Jalen, to me, is a really good football player. Really good football. I think you have as many of those guys at that corner position that you can be like, boom, this guy is lock it down for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And Tyson's a young player. Mm-hmm. I think there's other factors in here that go, okay, let's sign him early, get the flexibility, all those different things that you can do with the cap space. I think this is a little bit of, I'm going to go back to my Trent Baalke thing. He's checking boxes. If he wants to retire after the end of this year, he's checking more boxes. He's getting that 2021 draft class signed. Mm-hmm. They said they want to sign their own guys. He is signing his own guys, that 21 class. So, again, I don't mind this. I just would say this signing feels a little bit more surprising to me than any of the others at the high dollar rate that it is, at the top of the market.
Yeah, especially because, going back to the Trevor Lawrence contract, obviously I gave my TED talk about that, broke that down. I got it because, all right, that's your franchise quarterback. That's the price of doing business. Inflation goes up every single year for the quarterback position. You don't really see inflated numbers year by year with the cornerback position. It's not like you have guys making monumental new contracts. Like, eventually Sauce Gardner might get paid, and maybe he resets the market a little bit. But like I said, Jair Alexander was the guy that reset the market, and that happened in 2022. So if you have that information in front of you and you see it's not like an edge rusher, it's not like a quarterback where every single year these guys are getting more and more money. For whatever reason, it's not like that at the cornerback position, then maybe why didn't you wait another year to see? Just to make sure, to not have buyer's remorse. Like I've said, I'm a Tyson Campbell fan. I think he has a big year this year, coming off a year where he was hurt and everything. But there's still the unknown a little bit. Like with Trevor Lawrence, there was really no unknown. He's your guy. There's no other plan. You're invested. Known. With Josh Allen, there is no unknown. 17.5 sacks. We've seen it. Brent saw it a couple years ago. A lot of people didn't. Brent did. He's a pigskin prognosticator.
Right, I am.
If you will. But with Tyson Campbell, we can sit here and say, yeah, he's going to be a lot better this year when he's healthy, hands down. That's probably a fact. But do we know for sure that he's going to be the lockdown corner for years and years to come? I'm not sure if we can 100% say that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's I think it's okay to like Tyson Campbell a lot and think that, hey, you got a really good player, and I do. I believe he's part of that 2021 class, and they do too. And they're like, well, we feel like we got a really good player, so why wait? We don't have to wait. I'm okay with it. But I also think it's okay to ask these questions. Like these questions to me are more obvious than the Trevor one. For sure. Like, Trevor makes so much sense to me on a lot of different levels. You're talking about a bunch of money that gives you flexibility now more than later. He could even cost you more money next year. Like you were saying, the inflation rate on quarterback contracts continues to go up. Pass rusher contracts continues to go up. The cornerback market has steadied a little bit, to your point, so I get what you're saying. Good for him.
Absolutely.
And maybe good for the Jags. And I like the fact that 21 class is now something they're all in on. We'll see what happens with Andre Sisco. I think he could be another part of this. Walker Little could still get paid out of that draft class if they decide he's the future left tackle after this year. So, I mean, there's a lot more that can still be done with that 2021 draft class, which will then go down as one of the best in franchise history if you can do all that. But I also think asking those questions are fair questions. I don't necessarily feel like the Jags are going to get burned by this contract. On a 4-year contract, what are you looking at? Or it's probably a 4-year extension. So usually after like 2 years of those, you can kind of rip them up and do things to it. So, it's really a couple of year buy-in before you're probably going to have to do it again anyway. If he's really playing at an elite level, he's going to want a different contract at that point.
Sure. But now, and you know what I always say, Brent, it's not about the money, it's what the money says. And what the money says from a franchise quarterback, giving him what he got, that Joe Burrow type contract, is a lot different than what it says about Tyson Campbell now. What it says about Tyson Campbell now is that you're making that, Marlon Humphrey, that Trayvon Diggs, that L'Jarius Sneed money, which means is that when there's a good receiver on the field, you have to go out there and lock him up. Like that's what that money is saying now.
Yeah. Hey, and this is a good point by Steve Boston here. Might be getting ahead of a guys like Sauce Gardner or Derek Stingley Jr., those kind of contracts, which a guy like Sauce, when he comes up, now it might be another year or so away, but that's the point. That might be a monster one, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe those guys do tilt the market a little bit. Now, here's the other thing. Tyson's 24 years old, guys. Like, that's...
Yeah, his best days are still ahead of him.
24 years old. The Jags have a 24-year-old franchise quarterback. They have a 24-year-old corner under these big contracts. They have a 26-year-old pass rusher. They've got... that's a football team that I saw ESPN do something like, hey, who's going to be good the next 3 years? The Jaguars ranked, I think, 11th or 12th on that list, and it's for reasons like this. They've got a lot of young players right now, that they're core players that they've been able to keep and sign, and they just hope they're as good as you think they are. But that's part of the business. That's why you drafted them. That's why you develop them. That's why you bring people into free agency, because you think they can be good. And instead of going to get a corner in free agency, they're keeping their own guy and paying him, which you can't blame them for that. You said it. What does the money say? What does this say? Well, this says they think he's an elite corner, right? Sneed, Ramsey. And he's going to play for like an elite corner. We did this with Trevor. What does it look like when you're the franchise quarterback? What does he have to do? What does Tyson Campbell have to do? Well, he's going to stay healthy. He's going to come up with some big plays, but he's going to have that side of the field. I don't know if he's a traveling corner. That just depends defense to defense. But whatever side he's on, he's got to have it on pretty much lockdown. That's our expectation now, right?
Absolutely.
So I do wonder if do you think this is in any response to, I wonder the motivation on the Jag side. I get it for Bulky. This is a very ego-driven business, folks. You got to remember that. When you have, there's a big part of me who, by the way, I'm a guy who defends Bulky a lot and more than others. But I also think ego comes into play. I think legacy comes into play. I think things like that come into play with these guys. And they know it, and they think about it. And so my view on Bulky this offseason, especially with the retirement reports, I think he's thinking about it. He's probably thought about it. He's like in his early 60s. Why not? Right now, he's enjoying some success with this organization. I think he's put them in a pretty good spot. We can debate whether that 2021 draft class was Urban Meyer or Trent Baalke's. But guess who's putting his name on it?
Yeah.
Trent Baalke. He's putting his name all over that 2021 draft class. And to me, that's a sign of a little bit of legacy, maybe even a little bit of ego, and saying, hey, that was my class. Do I believe that he picked ETN or Tyson Campbell? Probably not. But he's owning the class. And so this has a little bit of that, I think, in it. And it's not necessarily wrong. I just think that's part of it. And I also have said this. This is an offseason where he is checking boxes, man. He's got Josh Allen, Hines Allen signed. He's got Trevor Lawrence signed. He's got Tyson Campbell signed. If they win, would it be that surprising if he walks away and leaves it like that's how? This was a guy that when he left San Francisco was out of the NFL for 3 years. He didn't get a gig. He got another opportunity as a GM. Very seldom do. Get another opportunity. Very few do. Get an opportunity a second time. He did. And now to be able to say, hey, made the Jags into a winner. Look at that 21 draft class. Stamped it, found the franchise quarterback, found the franchise pass rusher. These are things that are going to go on his resume potentially. And I'm not trying to paint this as like the most calculated thing ever, but I also think some of these things get factored in. I think there's a little internal motivation for the GM of this football team to get deals like this done right now, potentially. And we'll see how it plays out. Maybe he stays for another 4 or 5 years. I have no idea. But right now, he could walk out the door if they have a good season next year and make it to the playoffs this coming season. He could walk out the door in January, February, whatever that is, and feel really good about the way he left it. Mm-hmm. And I think most people would talk that way about it. Mm-hmm. So this could be setting up some of that. I also asked the question about Josh Hines-Allen. Is this a little bit of a response of, man, we should have probably signed him earlier? Is this an autocorrect from the organization on Trevor, on Tyson, or would these deals have been done anyway, just given the situation they're in?
I mean, you're talking about it's off of last season, though. Like Tyson Campbell didn't have that great season last year. So, like, with Josh Allen, you could see, okay, like, it was slowly building up. Like, you saw the potential there, right? I forgot like how many quarterback pressures he had, but he was right there.
He had 7.5 sacks, I think it was, that year.
With the cornerback position, it's a little different because your eyes don't, like, fool you. Can you cover a wide receiver? Yes or no? Is the wide receiver getting open? Yes or no? Like, it's hard to. I think you can hide behind a little more analytics, a little more stats when it comes to an edge rusher. It's hard to hide behind those analytics and stats when you're a cornerback because you're on an island essentially by yourself. So yeah, I get it with Josh Allen and everything, and then obviously re-signing Trevor Lawrence. But I think with Tyson Campbell, it is a little different because. And once again, injuries do play a factor in this, but one would say that he regressed last year.
Yeah. Daniel Griffiths, who we've had on the show before, he really dives into the numbers. Here's what he just tweeted. In 2022, Jags Tyson Campbell finished PFF's 7th highest graded CB in the NFL, collecting 9 PBUs, 3 interceptions, a lot of completion rate of just 58.5. So when I said earlier, like they paid Trevor in that 20-game window, they paid Tyson Campbell off the 22 season. Like, that's what they're doing. They're taking that sample of football and saying, this is who we believe he is as a 24-year-old player in the National Football League. And he might even get better. Obviously, we hope he even gets better at 24. So that's a little bit of it. It's an interesting move. And by the way, I think a good move. I will say this about the Jags right now. They are walking the talk. Mm-hmm. Shad, when he talked around the stadium deal, but he talked in that kind of off-camera session with the media, he said, we have got to stop paying free agents. We can't keep doing this. This is not the way to win. This is not the sustainable way to win. You got to pay your own guys. You got to draft. You got to develop. You got to pay them. Well, they're doing it, right? I mean, I give him a lot of credit for that. And I think Shad deserves a lot of credit for this, too. He's writing these checks, man. Like, when you were talking about that money, that guaranteed money stuff,
yeah,
those are checks coming from the owner. Not every owner is willing to write the amount of checks the Jags have written this offseason and really have written for the better part of the last 10 years. They're one of the highest spenders in the National Football League.
But to be fair, like you're almost getting this all up front because with the past couple, you haven't had a lot of examples to re-sign people. So it's like, yeah, if you're Shad Khan, you're spending a lot of money this year and you're investing. I mean, I don't even call it spending money. You're investing in your players. That's what good owners do. But this has almost been a long time coming. It's just, unfortunately, the drafts haven't shaken out in the Jaguars' favor. It seems like the last decade where you haven't been able to sign a lot of guys. But now going forward, you're finally starting to make those steps. And yeah, you got to write out the check. It's all part of the gig.
Yeah, I would just say he's been writing checks, whether it's his own guys or free agent guys, for a while, though. I mean, they're spending an enormous amount of money. And a lot of this stuff you have to be willing to do it. Listen, they're all billionaires. Most of them are billionaires. They have a lot of money. It's not that they can't do it, but many from a business structure aren't willing to do it. Shad's been willing to do it. And I think the organization's in a pretty good spot because of that. It feels it. And just one more thing this all season before camp starts tomorrow. Tyson Campbell extension, 4 years, $76 million according to Ian Rappaport. The numbers, that's $19 million a year. That's elite. That's elite, folks. He's getting paid like an elite corner, and hopefully he stays healthy and can play like an elite corner.